Hi everyone, welcome to the user experience webinar. We are going to talk about how to focus on user-centered products. In the past few years, we've seen an evolution in the market to focus on user-centered products. This tendency has improved the quality of the products, the results of the business, and the experience of the users. User experience for us is a mindset that sits at the center of this evolution. Today, we want to talk to you about what this is and why it changed the game so radically. We are going to have two speakers today that I'm going to introduce shortly, but first I want to check with you some things. At the bottom corner of your browser, you have to see a question mark. If you have any questions during all the presentation, you can just pop the questions there. So we are going to have a special time at the end to answer those questions. Our two speakers today are going to be first Andres Angelani, our Chief Solution Officer at Globant, and then Emilio Arcada, our User Experience Director at Globant. So now I'm giving the word to Andres.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending the webinar. I've been in Globant for more than 8 years, building solutions for our clients, and this is a pretty important one. This is a practice that we've developed through the years. In the early days at Globant, we focused heavily on engineering, but early enough, we realized that our focus needed to shift to respond to more complex product development paradigms, and that's why Globant started to migrate from a purely IT path to one that combines creative and engineering gracefully, without the typical handovers and hard interfaces between the two. Our average growth has been pretty dramatic, but over 45% for 10 years, building products for our clients. And throughout this time, we developed a personality around product development with sort of an innovative edge in the digital space. We have materialized this inside accounts like Disney, for example, where we are helping them build their next generation digital experience, which leverages digital to planning and ultimately sharing your experiences at their parks, cruises, or resorts. Electronic Arts, and another logo that you can see there on the screen, is another good example where we could develop AAA games with EA. Such an example of that is FIFA. And Nike Plus, where we, in the early days, helped build the framework to socialize people's runs and build a community that helped people start doing sports that maybe, were doing nothing in the past. Today, Globant has more than 2,500 employees, and our growth has been mostly organic, but we have made some strategic acquisitions in the US and Latin America to nurture Globant with diverse capacity and access to market, and further strengthen our profile in innovation. Acquiring companies like Terraform in Brazil, for example, Nextive, a mobile company in San Francisco, and some others in Latin America. Another client that basically changed Globant for what it is was Google, and it was and is a greenfield of opportunities for us to put our practice to the test. As they have been a client for 7 years, we built social platforms, the Google Checkout, and they actually gave us the exposure to help in the new database design, which transformed into Hadoop, and with that, the birth of we know today as big data. In terms of footprint in industry, we have a deeper expertise in media, entertainment, retail, travel, and finance, and those are the industries we operate more heavily with. And obviously, throughout the years, we acquired several achievements, and we've become the leader from Latin America to the world. Just in terms of capabilities, I'm going to just do a brief overview, and then I'm going to give the word to Emiliano, who's going to talk specifically about UX. Let's talk about capabilities now. So what are the most of Globant, what Globant does is product development, support, and technology projects for our customers. Let's talk about specifics. Our practices are the core elements in our portfolio of services. The tubes that you can see there on the left are practices that we're doing research projects on. They're high potential, though maybe not mainstream just yet. For example, we built a telepresence robot, DNA sequencing applications, a bunch of Kinect applications that leverage gesture interfaces and augmented reality through different cameras and experience sets. The difference between the left and the right is mainly scale. The practices on the right have much more scale, and we call them mature practices that live within a studio, which you can see at the bottom. At the moment, Globant has 8 different studios. The studios are business units that are led by technology and operations partners that source and run projects in collaboration with other studios. Each practice has a lead, capacity, and ad hoc training paths for all the talent that it builds. Each studio typically has from 3 to 5 practices, and there are about 28 practices overall at Globant. Here, I'm going to mention some of the most significant practices that we have. Our creative practices, like user experience, UI technology, visual design, and game experience, work together in product design most of the times. So we participate pretty heavily in rapid application design or innovation as a service, which is another practice that we use at Globant. E-commerce, for example, as you see there, is a traditional practice at Globant right now. We've built microtransaction services for electronic arts, a bunch of online shopping experience for many customers like Google, Sears, Peet's Coffee, etc. It is led by our consumer experience studio, which you can see at the bottom there. And basically, it combines UX and transactional services as well as payment to deliver end-to-end commerce applications, either on web or mobile. Game experience, for example, is pretty interesting, and that's with our gaming studio. Brings game design to traditional software, combining with UX to help engage the user better and incentivize certain behaviors. Mostly our purchasing behaviors, but also we work within HR in many big corporations to incentivize collaboration among teams. So, how does Globant scale, right? How are we organized to scale? So, in organization design, when instead of building silos that were aligned to industry verticals like a traditional consulting firm, we were successful in making studio people work together, assemble into account teams. Here, product management and what we call core teams hold the business and vertical domain experience from the client and stay with the client long term. So we are always aiming to build these long-term relationships. But you have a team that you can trust, and then that team can build products with you. The practices are leveraged across the core client teams, and they're infusing talent that brings the Globant experience to life. Of course, our clients can just buy engineers from Globant, but that's not where we maximize our potential. When you buy what we call an agile pod, which consists of all those ingredients that combine design, engineering, QA, and operations, then that's when our clients get the most of us. And a typical agile pod is composed by practice leadership. It's composed by typical engineers like Java or .NET or whatever is needed in your technology stack to build product, or mobile, iOS, or Android, and some QA. But it has the element of product, it has the element of user experience, all running within one single unit. And that unit doesn't have to be huge. It's generally from 5 to 10 people. And then when we scale, we multiply all these different cells of the different pods, and that's how we build, more robust platforms or in multi-year agreement, multi-year projects. So I'd like to leave this slide saying that the engagement setup and how we envision teams is critical to maximize the value that Globant provides. And this one in particular, user experience. Now we're gonna deep dive on. It's kind of the starting point on a product design. So I will leave you with Emiliano now to talk specifics. Thank you for your participation. If you want to know more about our engagement models and engagement strategy, please don't hesitate to contact us.
Thank you, Andres. Thank you for the presentation. So hello, everybody, and thank you for coming here today to the webinar, to the user experience webinar. We are very happy to be talking with you about this. As Andres said, we truly believe that a mature product is created with the collaboration from different practices, and user experience is a very important one at the beginning of the conception of the creation of a product. So my name is Emiliano Arcada. I am the user experience director at Globant. I've been working in Globant for a few years now, and in different types of accounts and different types of products, small and big ones, and in different industries, whether it is the game industry, whether it is the financial industry, creating different products with the user experience team. And today I want to talk to you about what UX is and what's the drive behind it and how it is changing the game and how it's been changing the game for a while now. Now, this is a photo that I wanted to start with. This is a very primitive tool made by a very primitive man. And this is what happened a few years ago. We started as human beings creating tools, and that's really what differentiates us from other species. So the creation of tools is at the very core of our species. We create tools to evolve. We create tools that facilitate our everyday life. We've been doing them with the technology that we have, whether primitive or sophisticated, but it's been with us for a lot of years now, and it's part of who we are. And we create those tools because we need to take it to the next step. We need to be better at what we do, and we've done a great job there. We got more sophisticated. We developed technologies to do it even more. But at the very beginning, when we started creating tools, the tools were absolutely focused on a particular need, and they were really simple. They were aiming to one particular thing, and they were doing it very right. And that was basically it. We got better with technology, and we got better with different materials, and we started studying the way that we behave, right, and how to make those tools better. We got to a point where we are now very sophisticated, and thanks to these tools, we can do things that a while ago we couldn't even imagine that we were going to do right. Things that were written in books like science fiction now are actually happening. Things like Google Glass is coming out to the market, and it's changing things again. Things like the iPhone that revolutionized the way that we communicate and the possibilities that we have. So the creation of tools is highly important. It has impacted everything in our communities, in our societies, and from that starting point to what we have right now, things got a little confusing for some, and some people actually, they lost their focus, and at some point we started getting tools that were not that focused on what we needed. They were more focused on the technology, or maybe on the business side, but not on what we as users were actually looking for. You started having, whether it is software or more tangible products that were not working, or that they were not delivering the efficiency that you were after, and that's just that created frustration from everybody. Frustration from we as users, because we were not getting what we wanted, and we were not able to communicate it to the companies as well. Frustration from business, because they were not being able to grow the way they wanted, because they were not having insight from their users as well. And even frustration from technology, because it was misused. It was not being used at its full potential, and which is not the best scenario to anybody. So now in the past few years, we've seen maturity, and we've seen something that really changed the game. Very big companies started focusing all their efforts and actually their whole philosophy, their company philosophy, into centering their product development in user behavior, in actual user behavior. We started seeing products and big companies as Google, very simplistic and very focused on one particular need and doing that thing right, which was the opposite to a tendency maybe driven in the 80s and the 90s that the more features you had, the better, right? So these big companies said, no, I want to focus on what the user actually needs, and we're going to do that right. Companies like Apple started creating a whole philosophy and a whole culture around this, around centering yourself in what the user needs. And they created not only software, but also products and also services, a whole ecosystem around what they were doing. Sorry, can you hear me well now? I think it is right. Yes, I'm going to put it one. Sorry. So the creation of this ecosystem is completely relevant to the state that we are currently going through with software development and with product development. We're seeing currently companies like Amazon expanding their businesses and creating products and services and those ecosystems, everything around what a user actually needs, and creating those business models based on that requirement, and not the other way around, which was a tendency before. And we've seen little products blossom into huge companies based around a particular user need. But I think what really changed the game, it wasn't only that big companies were really straightforward about this philosophy and that mindset, like we call it, that they wanted to center themselves on the user. I think what really changed the game was that little companies, or even just regular people, started creating very relevant products with this mindset as well, with no big infrastructure and with no big resources. They were able to create those products and show the whole market that this is possible. And that's what made everybody wake up, right? Nowadays, we know that this is not just restricted to big companies and everybody who has a lot of resources and time and what have you. It's just a way of approaching the product development cycle. It's not anything else than that. It's a way of seeing things and a way of measuring things and a way of thinking how you approach the whole development. So what is really crucial now is that everybody, and this everybody cannot be more true nowadays, everybody is in the game. Everybody is creating a product. Whether you're talking about an end customer product, an e-commerce, an internet, a mobile application, everybody is in the game, and we're all able to do this. So how do we go back to the source? How can we change the game? How do we do this? How do we focus ourselves on the user once again, or how do we make this happen in a better way? So user experience is, as we said, is at the center of that evolution. Is going back to the source and building that bridge between what the user thinks and how he behaves and what the business needs, because we cannot forget about any of it. If you focus exclusively on business and don't pay attention to your audience, then it's not going to work the optimal way. And if you do the same with the user, if you just focus on the user and forget about the business, then it's not going to be a good business model, right? So UX is a practice that it gathers insight from users and business and designs an optimal interaction that creates efficient and usable products. That's our goal. Our goal is to create a usable product, an efficient product, to design attractive interactions to the particular context, to gather those insights, those valuable insights from the user, and from the business, and to create that bridge between the user and the business goals, whether it is we need to make to improve the conversion or to improve readability and to improve accessibility or to reduce the amount of clicks. UX is the one that will gather that insight and turn it into an actual product. So these are a few items from our UX approach. So there are different stages of the UX flow, I want to call it, and there are things that we tend to pay a lot of attention to. One, as we were talking at the beginning, is insight. We want to do research, and we want to gather that specific, whether it is user behavior or user context or business metrics as well. We pay a lot of attention to the content in particular. What are you showing to? When are you showing it to the user, and where are you showing it? It's very important to understand the moment and the context where the user is going to consume this information. We design those interactions, and we go for innovation at this time. We try to think outside the box and try to come up with new interactions, keeping in mind the conventions that are now with the devices. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next slide. And then we go for efficiency. We want to optimize and make it usable and have metrics, and numbers. We want to have metrics that we can measure and that we can iterate over and keep improving. So this is a little bit of our mindset put in a process kind of way, right? So from a research point of view, what you usually do in user experience design, when you're starting or maybe when you're in the middle of a project, you want to gather evidence and valid input and insight from the context of users. Whether it is, you can do this by what we call ethnographic interviews, which is you go with the users and you talk with them and you see them in their actual context, and you ask a few questions and there's a few methodologies to do this, to gather that insight. And you keep doing this in different ways to try and gather that insight from different points of view. And you create what we call personas, which is a stereotype of users that we can later follow up through the whole development process and keep remembering who we are developing for or designing for. Now, when we go to information architecture, like I was telling you, the focus here is on content. So we're very focused on how the user organizes information, and we do different types of workshops and different types of exercises to gather this information. But the goal here is to understand how they organize it, the way they label the information, when they need that information to be shown to them. So, for example, we've been testing a while ago an application, an e-commerce application, and there was some information that was presented to the user before the checkout, and the users were not happy with it. They felt like that information was relevant, but it wasn't at the right time. We just moving that to another step was enough to keep the frustration level very low and to facilitate the user to the next step. So things like that are very important in the information architecture step. Then we go into interaction and innovation, and this is the time for brainstorming and for trying to come up with new ways or good ways, great ways to present the interactions and to design the different flows and the different contexts. Now, we go from wireframe and sketches, very low fidelity and draft interfaces to high fidelity interfaces. And this is a good methodology to get quick feedback from whether it is the users or stakeholders. It's a great way to validate the work that you're doing and to change courses, whether it is because it's not technically possible or because the user is not liking in some way the interface, or because the stakeholders or the business goals are changing now. So this methodology of wireframing and iterating and creating prototypes very quickly is key in the whole process. It gives you a dynamic velocity, it gives you communication, it gives you collaboration, and it's great. And when we design these interactions, we keep in mind the device and the context that the users are going to be consuming the product on. It's not the same when you consume a product from a desktop or from a tablet or from a mobile. Not only because of the size of the screen, but because of the context that you are. Maybe you don't feel that secure to perform certain transactions, for example, so you will wait to get home to do that. And you have to be very aware. You don't have the time to do it on a mobile, and you'll do it on a desktop. So we really have to keep that in mind and to keep on testing. Then we go into usability, and this is not within interaction design and usability. It's not like step one, step two. It keeps going back and forward. It's very iterative and it's very dynamic. So you have one layout or one interface, and then you go and test it with users. You test it with your stakeholders, and you keep getting feedback from those usability tests. The part of usability is done with real users, with real users to see their behaviors. We record their behaviors, the conversations that they have, the things that they think aloud. We do also different ways of testing are also A/B testing, when you present different options to a user, multivariate testing, when you present more than two options to a user, and then you gather a lot of insights and a lot of metrics from that, and you can make a much more informed decision. You can do heuristic evaluations, which is a much more systematic evaluation of a system. Now, this is, once again, this whole it's a way of seeing product development. It's a mindset, like we want to call it. It should not be perceived as a rigid process. It's very dynamic. It's very it flows very well in the whole product development process. So one thing that's been really important in the past few years is to create an ecosystem and a consistent experience throughout a lot of devices. You know, some agencies maybe focus all their efforts into creating great mobile applications. We believe, and we've been very lucky to have a lot of clients who have the maturity to understand that creating a good experience just for one device, it's not hitting the mark. You need to be very aware of what the user is going to need in each context and design for that. We collaborate very well with the UI engineering, and we are able to create interfaces and interactions that are very adaptable to whether it is by responsive design or technology that the UI engineers suggest, to adapt and to optimize the performance on each device. And the performance is also part of the experience as well. So the collaboration with the engineering here at Globant, it's crucial. You cannot conceive UX as something that is divided from the whole product development. We need to understand that it's a part of everything, and the collaboration with every practice and with every talent needs to be constant. So we wanted to present you with some metrics and some relevant information about a few products that we know that have gotten very good results from applying this process. So this is a very well-known e-commerce focused on flights and hotels, and there was a dedicated team of UX designers and information architects and user researchers working into analyzing all the flows of this product. But they had one particular goal, which was to increase the conversion around cross-sell. Cross-sell means, so if you went from the flight path trying to book a flight, the system should suggest you a hotel and persuade you in some way to book that hotel as well. So this is a clear business goal. You know, the business have this goal of increasing the conversion, and the user experience team had to go and understand the user behavior to see where this was if this was achievable at all and how you could do it. So the way to do this was they started testing. They did some A/B testing to prove how the users were reading the page and understanding the content of the page, and proving different ways of designing the information and trying to see which was more effective. They did multi-parent testing at some point to test many different ways of persuading the user. They did usability tests with real users, so they see their behavior, and they iterated very fast in different ways and different designs to come up with the right design. So as you see, this was a 10-month project in this case, and you can see ups and lows in the whole graph. But at the end of the 10 months, they were able to increase the amount of cross-sell, by the conversion of the cross-sell path by almost 100%. And this was done exclusively by the constant iteration from the UX team, going back and forward to new designs, and getting metrics and analyzing and collaborating very closely with the development team as well to get it done. This is a good other example from an internet, from a big international company. The goal that they have was to increase user adoption in their intranet. So they had an intranet, and the users were not going into it to find any information. And it wasn't that the problem wasn't that it wasn't a nice design, you know. The project, and at the end of the project, the user experience team realized that the problem was more around how the information was organized and the type of interaction that the internet allows. So the team did from ethnographic interviews to go to the actual company and study the behavior of the users, to talk to them about what they really needed, to redefine and redesign the whole information architecture, to change the labels on the different categories so they were more user-friendly, and to work with the developers to understand what was the right back-end structure to support it. So in 4 months, the team was able to present a new internet, and after implementation, after 5 weeks of implementation, there was an increase of 400% in user adoption, and it's still live, and they're still feeding from this project. So it is, UX is not only about creating and collaborating with visual design to create beautiful interactions and attractive interactions. It is also about getting things done from a metric point of view when you want, whether it is to persuade a user to go to a particular path, or to create tools that will give you that will make your day-to-day even more productive. In this case, in the intranet, we were able to create social interaction tools, communication and collaboration tools within the internet that actually made not only the user adoption metric increase, but also the productivity metric increase. So it's a great way to understand the culture of a company and to make it better. This is a very different example. It's a prototype. It's a Spanish newspaper, a European newspaper, and it is the European newspaper, actually, the Spanish newspaper, and they wanted to create a new way to browse their information in an iPad. So the challenge here was to understand that information, to understand the conventions of the iPad, and to present a new way. And what the team found out doing, and it was a 4-week project, so it was very quick. And what the team found out with the research that they've done is that the users were not that interested about editorial categories. So they were more interested about the Emmy Awards or a particular problem in economics or a particular person. But they didn't care if the Emmy Awards were under entertainment or sports or international. They were looking for that subject. So what was actually very interesting about this is that the interaction designers and the user experience designers were able to design new and attractive interactions to browse it. We were able to use all the interactions that the device gives you, and the very attractive interactions, but also they took it to the next level by rethinking how the user organize that information and how he's actually looking to consume that information. So that's actually a good example of how user experience can drive the success of a product by understanding the need of the business and understanding the need of the user as well. Now, user experience is applied now in many industries. I haven't seen now an industry that cannot be optimized or be benefited by UX. We, as Andres told you, we have clients in different industries, and UX is, whether it is in e-commerce, internet, financial, and even game industry, there is always a good need to gather more of this insight and to apply it in a very smart way. So I wanted to bring us to this conclusion, which is we're currently, and you guys don't know it, we're currently in a very fast-paced time. You know, everything changes very quick, and there are specialized tools everywhere. You can have whether it is a mobile application for whatever you actually want. It's very specialized. It's very sophisticated, and that's why we need to be very smart about how we create the right experiences, how we approach the way to create these experiences, and how we collaborate with the different practices. If we being alone right now, having just great engineering will not make the difference, and having just great designers will not make the difference as well. You need to have the collaboration between good UX designers, good visual designers, good engineers to create a successful product, and that's the way that we see the product, the whole product development process. User experience is at the center of that evolution, and we're very happy, and we're very happy to see the market evolving to an understanding that without a focus on user behavior and without that bridge being built between business and user, you're not going to get a successful product in the market. And we're very happy to be having this conversation today with you, so you can have even more tools to apply this into your products and to take the conversation even a step forward. So thank you very much, guys, for your time today. Thank you very much for attending to this, and if you have any questions, we'll definitely go through with those. Let me see. Val, do you want to take questions, or should I?
You can read the questions. We have like 3 or 4 questions here. I don't know if you received it.
I have one question. Let me see that. How do you balance an evolving UI with product release? First impression counts, but so that's time to market. And there are another one. Okay. So how do you balance an evolving UI with product release? That's actually very interesting. There's a different ways to engage with the UX team, but in particular, as we said at the beginning, we believe that UX is part of the whole product development process. So it's for example part of the whole agile process as well. And for example, with a product that is currently working and it's working by iterations and releases, and you have sprints. The UX team usually works 1 or 2 iterations ahead of the development team to be able to implement, to have those changes ready and all the assets ready for the UI development team to implement. So that's one thing. I really wanted to stretch that point. That UX is part of the whole product development process. Now with a UI and with a product that is continually changing, like every web product in the market, you need to have that UX team also thinking about constantly gathering insight from business and users to apply those changes in the smartest possible, and to have a very fluid and open process to collaborate with the UI development. So I see there's another question: is UX part of QA? It's not part of QA, but there are definitely common areas. So QA is very focused on quality and to understand if everything is working the way it should. And QA is definitely a very good friend of UX. When we create this experience and when we have these wireframes and we present these mockups, we rely on a good QA team to keep an eye on that and to keep the quality as was said at the beginning. So definitely, it's not part, but the collaboration is crucial there. I have another one. It says, to make a good UX, the user feedback is an important part of it. But what about Apple's famous quote of Steve Jobs? People don't know what they want until you show it to them. So how do we know if the user feedback is useful or no? Definitely, I totally agree with you. The problem here is that if you just think that the only way of testing or gathering insight is asking a user, do you like it or not, then you're never going to hit the mark. So the UX, the user experience designer team, for example, they come from different disciplines. So you have some UX designers that come from design and communication. Some even come from industrial design and psychology, and even from anthropology. So you have different mix of people that are focusing into gathering their behaviors. But you should never base your insight on the words that the user say. You should pay more attention to their actual behavior, their body language, the things that they're not telling you, and you should test in different ways. So eye tracking might give you some kind of insight. Usability test will give you others. A/B testing will give you others. So it's a mix of those what will give you the end result, not just one. I definitely agree with you. Any other questions? I see that there is a question about how long does it take for your UX process to go on. So it depends on the type of product and project. It can go from just a couple of weeks to do a review, what we call an expert review or a heuristic evaluation, and to understand the status of a product and to advise on what to do next. Or it can take up to a few months when you go from conceptualization, from ideation to the whole development of all the flows, all the documentation, and everything to release a product to the market. So it depends on the stage of the product. Any other questions? I see one that is.
Yes, another one.
Go ahead.
Did you use UX combined with agile methodology, like Scrum or Kanban?
Yes, definitely. We actually, I think that in our experience, the best experience that we had with UX working with development team was in an agile methodology. It's very dynamic. It's very fluid. As I said before, usually we tend to add the work of the UX designers 1 or 2 iterations before the developers, and it works very, very well. The communication is very good. I see another one that says where to start to improve conversion in a marketplace. That's a very good question. So there are many ways to do that, to be honest. One way, and it can be from conversion in the marketplace, can go from if the conversion is bad, it could be because the usability is bad, because the quality of the content is bad, or because the flows are not presented in the right way, or because you're not persuading the user in the right way. So there are many fronts that you can attack this from. I would advise that the first thing that you need to do is to run what we call an expert review, which is an expert actually looking at the product and analyzing very high-level things, and then to go into usability tests to gather a deeper insight of user behavior. That will be the first thing to do.
Then we have the last one, and says,
yeah,
yes.
To be a UX, which is the best way to start? I would say that you could start reading some books, some very interesting books. There's one very interesting book called Don't Make Me Think from Steve Krug. He's one of the the mentors of UX worldwide. That's a very good book to start. And there's another one called About Face. It's around interaction design. It's very technical, but it's very good as well. And then there is one more. Would it be very difficult for a UI developer to start working on UX and combine both things with success, or he should have different skills that are not so common in UI devs? So I don't think that it's impossible for a UI developer to have both. My background, actually, I study art, drawing and sculpture, and then I study system engineering. So I really believe that UI developers can definitely take it to UX and work both things. The only thing that I would say is, if you want to be a great UI developer, you have to really specialize yourself and have a lot of knowledge in that. And if you want to be a good UI designer, you have to have a lot of knowledge about ethnographic interviews, different methodologies of whether it's design conventions, design patterns, and that. So there will be a point where you need to decide. But I do believe that UI developer can make very relevant suggestions on UX.
So that's it. Thank you, Emiliano. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We are hoping to have a recorded version of the event, so you can share or you can hear it again. And you're going to hear some news about our next webinar next month. So thank you again.